Welcome everyone to another episode of The Creative Minds. Joining me here today is Tessy Antony De Nassau. So Tessy, I am super excited to get you on my podcast. So can you just give us, like, give the audience a bit more of understanding of like who you are and what is it that you do?
Yeah, of course. So I grew up in Luxembourg, which is a tiny country in Europe. They call it the lung of Europe because it's 85% forest. And we have a very, very vibrant industry and a lot of diversity. So yeah, around 32% of the individuals living in Luxembourg are foreigners. So it's very multicultural, which is beautiful. I think Dubai reflects the same multiculturalism as Luxembourg in some perspectives, which I think is also why it draws me always back to the Middle East, to Dubai, because I kind of feel at home as well there because of that diversity.
Yeah.
Then I was schooled in Luxembourg. Studied accounting actually and business administration in high school. Didn't like it. Finished that and went off to the military, where I was active duty for 5.5 years. Had both of my children in the military, so was pregnant in the military. Luxembourgish military, at the time we were 20 women in total. Which was, people would notice that I was pregnant, because only 20 women and having one pregnant, that definitely makes the tour around very fast. And studied as well trauma psychology while I was in the military, and graphic design and assistant teaching degree. So I did all of that in night classes. As you can tell, I have always been very ambitious, always been studying, always been doing millions of things. And while raising two beautiful boys, Gabriel and Noah. Gabriel is now 16 almost in March, and Noah just turned 14 in September. Then went off back to university. So was a diplomat as well in Geneva and in London for Luxembourg for the military. And then left the military and went back to university, studied occupational therapy in the US. And when moving to London, studied institutions and diplomacy and international relations. At once Richmond University for my bachelor, and SOAS University for my master's. Then, after that, just traveling around quite a lot and working for corporates, one including Vice Media, which I think you know about in the Middle East as well. So I was their director for Middle East, Africa, and Europe. So I was a lot in the Middle East at that time, specifically in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, and for the impact branch of Vice Media, which was really exciting, and I really loved it. And I met wonderful people, and still some of my colleagues from that time are good friends. So that's always fantastic. And then started my own businesses, which I just mentioned before.
Yeah, it's amazing. What made you want to go into military? Just like going back to that, like not many people are interested. It's kind of perceived as like a manly job, or not many people like, or not many women are there, as you mentioned, like only 20 women were there. So what made you go into military?
My sister was in the military, so she was one of the 20.
Wow.
And my father thought it was a really good idea. If you look at the timeline, I was 17 and a half when I entered the military, which by the standards of today would be a child soldier if you're under 18. So I was very young, and my twin brother was leaving, and so my dad thought it was a really good idea. And so off I went and joined the military myself too.
Nice.
But I think in Luxembourg, the good thing is when you work for the armed forces and you do the military service, you get priority right in government exams for government positions when it comes, for example, to customs or other armed forces jobs. And also, it is a state employer. The state is the employer, which then you get so many more benefits. So it is really interesting career to do in Luxembourg.
And what would you say, like, you've learned from the experience there that helped you grow?
I learned a lot. I learn constantly, even now with my newborn Theodore. He's 3 months now. I think we all learn, and you die if you don't learn anymore. But for my military career, what specifically was standing out for me was the resilience it helped me build.
Wow.
Because when I was deployed to Kosovo, for example, as the only woman of my draft with 500 men, so Luxembourgish men, but also Belgian and French contingent, we were part of them. And yeah, there was not many women, and so I was alone most of the time.
Yeah.
I really, really learned, you know, the asset it brings to be a female in the armed forces. There needs to be more females in armed forces, just because we have a different skill set as men, and I advocate for that still today for women who want that, right? I know that not every woman wants to go in the military, as you mentioned before, but for me, it was really a fantastic career, and I really loved it. And what else? It was really just, the resilience part, but then also I have a driving license for almost every vehicle you can imagine, which I love, and also learned the mechanics of each vehicle as well.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. I'm very good at shooting rifle, and did competitions with that as well, and can disassembly rifles without a problem and put them back together, which I think is also a cool skill to have. Definitely something when I show my boys, then I'm the cool mom. Because they also go rifle shooting already with their dad, and they go as well hunting with their dad. And with me, they don't go hunting, just because here in Switzerland, I have moved here recently, only like a year ago. And for that, I don't even know yet how I would get my rifle here and how I can go hunting here. So I still need to figure that out. But they do it with that, and I think they find it pretty cool that Mama was in the military.
Yeah. I'm honestly like asking you such questions because you're the first female that I'm interviewing who's been in the military, and I find it so exciting. You mentioned that it's you want to encourage more women to be in the military, and I also noticed like a theme that you always have there is like women empowerment and everything that you've come across in your talk even earlier. But let's say you said women have certain traits that, or more women need to be in the military because of their traits. But what traits are you referring to that need to be more enhanced in the military field?
Well, for example, I mean, there needs to be more women in the armed forces, not just military, but also in the police forces, customs, all kinds of jobs, right? Which are included in the armed forces, NATO, diplomats, right? For the armed forces and so on. Just because, the traits that you mentioned, the skill set, I can depict that with a really good example. When I was deployed to Kosovo, and we were doing searches in villages for guns and any kind of ammunition. What I saw was that the last thing a woman wanted to see was a guy. And, there was a lot of tension. There was a lot of insecurities. There was a lot of fear from women towards the military men. Yes, they were not there to hurt you, but for them is, when you are in a war zone, often women are the ones suffering the most, because they are also being used as weapon for war when they get raped, and all of these other experiences that women and children have when it comes to conflict. And so the last thing, as I said, that they wanted to see when I was in Kosovo for these searches in the villages in the mountains was a man. So, and they were so grateful that I was there, doing the searches on them. I could talk to them. They felt more comfortable with me. Yes, I was a military, but I was a woman. And, it was easier for them to open up as well. And, to tell me what happened. And I think that is what is needed as well, because, there's everywhere where you go, the population is made up of 50% men and 50% of women. So I don't see the point why there should only be men in the armed forces. Because, as I said before, with that short example, but very, very powerful example, women are needed in all jobs. And that includes the armed forces, in my opinion.
Yeah. And then you also talked about like your journey where you did a bit more psychology and occupational therapy, and then you went into international relations. Why do you constantly have this desire to learn or to challenge yourself in different areas? And why psychology? Why occupational therapy? What about them that drove you to want to learn them?
Mm-hmm. Also, a short example quickly before we go into that one.
Yeah.
When I was in Dubai, I was also meeting the Dubai Police Academy. And that
Yes.
was also a discussion we had that I helped them kind of understand how to get more women into the armed forces in Dubai,
Yeah.
which I think was interesting, right? To make it more appealing, you know, with childcare as well and all of these things. So I think having more women in the armed forces that I advocate for is not just a European thing. I think it's also a thing where you are, where you live at the moment. And yeah, just thought that would be interesting because with you in Dubai.
Yeah.
So going over to your question then, what makes me want to learn so much? Okay, it's just I'm a very curious person, and we're living in a very fast-paced world.
Yes.
You know, the world is changing every day, if we want it or not.
Yeah.
And I want to be part of that change. And you cannot be part of the change and be a proper tool for change if you don't know what's going on. And so studying and learning and continuously upgrading what you have learned is necessary in order to create and innovate in order to accommodate the needs of a growing and fast-growing society. Trauma psychology I studied because my sister had a very, very bad car crash and her boyfriend died and she almost didn't make it. And she was very traumatized from that. And I will never forget how she was. She's fine now and she's happily married and has beautiful daughters. But it took her a long time to really settle back. And I promised myself that I would never, ever let anyone experience what my sister experienced. And that I would be there for people when the police comes and rings on your door and says something happened and someone died. That I would be there with them. And that is what I did, trauma psychology and going and ringing with policemen on the door when someone died. And I was there to take care of the families for the psychology part, which I was very grateful because I learned so much. Then, others in institutions, it's just because I'm extremely intrigued by institutions and, being part of the UN and also being part of so many different institutions, WEF and so on. I think institutions are a very powerful tool, but as with everything else, they also need to innovate. And in order to innovate, you need to learn what they don't know yet, right? And so I keep on learning new things, right? About pandemics and epidemics. At University of Irvine, California, I studied. Then sustainable business at Harvard Business School, I studied because, we want to make money, but also we want to give back, right? And so, everything I'm doing and everything I'm studying makes sense. I'm working on my PhD in integrative medicine at the moment in my spare time. Because I had a huge burnout 5 years ago and I learned that alternative medicines are pretty amazing. And so I just wanted to know why it works so well and how can I implement that in my family, but also how can I implement that with people that I don't know yet who ask me about these things, right? And so it's a continuous add-on. I study as I need it myself. As I need these skills, I go on and study them.
Yeah, I love it. And it's kind of like you're chasing after curiosity. So I've noticed, like you mentioned, you have an instant situation that kind of triggers curiosity in you, and you're kind of like chasing after it to learn it so that you can handle it whenever it can help other people, or you can handle it yourself if it were ever to like happen again. And my question here is, you mentioned a very great point. The world is moving in such a fast-paced world. So being curious, you have to be curious, but to what extent do you say that, what, enough is enough now? I need to take in what I'm learning and kind of slow down a bit because I need it for my own well-being as well. So like learning is very good and I feel it's very important, but also being present and not just learning, but actually not just taking in information, but actually learning it and grasping it and applying it. So how do you balance that out?
Yes, of course. Well, I'm not doing 10 courses a week.
Yeah.
So yeah, they come as I need them. But everything that I have learned, I apply it in everything I do. So a course that I take in sustainable business, for example, I apply it for my company, but I also apply it for my own personal life and how I live and how I talk. And so whatever I learn or whatever I read, I love reading as well. And I make my children read a lot as well, even though they don't like so much reading at the moment. But they will get there as I did. I didn't like reading as well when I was young. Yeah, it's just, to apply it as you go. And I think, to step back as well when you need it. You know, before our podcast, I told you I'm really tired today, and I have no problem saying that. You know, I'm not a superhuman, meaning that even though people think I'm superhuman sometimes, you know, I'm tired too, and I'm also taking naps sometimes, and I also say no when it's too much. If I'm too busy, I also scroll back, or I get help, which I think is also important, right? That to share, because I think everything I'm building right now has been created by not just me, but by many people. And as they say, teamwork makes the dream work. And then, of course, you know, just enjoy sitting back on your sofa. So sadly, we don't have a beach like you do in Dubai, which I miss. I miss Dubai beach. But, you know, for me, sitting on the sofa, watching some Netflix, eating some ice cream, breastfeeding baby, and just chilling out is definitely also something that I love doing. And I do it all the time as well. So, I just listen to myself as much as I can. And my body tells me what I can do and what I can't do at all times. So I think that is what it is, right? How you balance it is listening. Listen to yourself. Your body will tell you if it's too much. Instantly. And yes, people ignore that, and then the burnout happens. I had that, and I think the burnout was my biggest gift that I could ever give myself, because I learned so much about myself, and to really also step back when I need to. So that is how I balance it.
I think you said listen to yourself. So like you just said it so smoothly and easily because you've learned from it. But for someone who is still unaware of listening to themselves, what could they do? At least one advice or one step that you have for them to understand what it means to listen to yourself.
Meditation. And yes, meditation, not everyone knows how to do it. I think if you just sit in silence in the morning, right after waking up for 10 minutes, and I'm great at preaching it. I still as well sometimes need to force myself, you know, but it makes a difference because you really feel, then you really realize, is it tingling somewhere, right? Is my body a bit overexcited already in the morning, right? That is already a sign that you may be pushing it too much, right? So meditation, journaling as well, writing a gratitude journal, journaling in the morning, which I make my children do, is that you sit down and you have a piece of paper and you just scribble in whatever comes to your brain. Sometimes you just say literally, oh my God, I don't want to do this. Oh, it's bad weather. Okay, my head is scratching. Like whatever comes to your mind, like as stupid as it sounds, just write it down. And eventually it will click and you really just start writing. Then emotions come up, right? About situations that you have forgotten maybe, or about a person, you're thinking about someone all of a sudden. Write it all down. And if you do that every day, it kind of cleans you. It gives you a little detox. And that as well helps a lot with dealing with working a lot and everything, because you know it's true that a lot of people need to learn by experiencing. So I can preach as much as I want. If a person doesn't listen, they need to feel it, right? And they will feel it eventually if they're pushing it too much. But if you do want to avoid and prevent to where I was, because when I had my burnout, I couldn't eat, I couldn't walk, I couldn't speak properly. Like I was really broken. And I was so anxious I couldn't even sit in a restaurant anymore. I remember running out of the restaurant after sitting there for 5 minutes because I thought I would choke. Like it was really uncomfortable because it was so physically violent. And, if you want to get there, be my guest.
Yeah.
You will learn. But if you can prevent it, then maybe, start with meditating, sleep properly, read about sleep, how important sleep is. Get at least 6 hours of sleep a night. Sleep is really the gold of the future. It regenerates your brain, it regenerates your body, your thoughts, your memory, everything. And it's just they did studies, for the people who don't drink alcohol. If you don't sleep properly, you will get symptoms as if you were drunk when you're driving, for example. Your memory and your how conscious you actually are will decrease just because your body, your brain is tired, right?
Yeah.
So sleep is really important. Also nutrition, take vitamins. Magnesium and zinc, really important. Magnesium specifically. If you have a really stressful life, take a lot of magnesium. The worst that can happen, you get diarrhea. Magnesium is really something, it cannot hurt your organs. You can really just get diarrhea, which is amazing. But it's very, very good because it really helps your body to keep up, right? It's good for the brain, it's good for the muscles, for the cramping, for all kinds of things, mental health. So magnesium. And
And you mentioned, sorry, go ahead.
No, and then last but not least, we all go to the gym, right? Or we go for walks, we do good nutrition and all that stuff. We take care of our bodies, we train our body. But what about our brain? I think also, if you can, go and see a psychologist once a month for like half an hour, 45 minutes, and kind of like, clear your brain as well. Detox your brain. We detox the body. We do muscle training and all of that stuff. We do everything that is physical, but we don't do the mental part. And I think a psychologist is as important as a fitness studio. And we need to break the stigma that if you go to the psychologist, you are not sick. You're just taking care of yourself, right? And you're not crazy either. It's, again, just taking care of yourself. And I think that stigma needs to break, that if you go to a psychologist, that something is wrong with you. No, it's not. It's just no one says, oh, you're crazy or you're weird because you go to the gym, right?
Yeah.
So why is it crazy and weird when you go and see a psychologist once a month? I think that needs to change as well. And that can also be a very good outlet for a lot of stress and get you back on track and focused.
And when you talked about burnout, what does it mean to experience burnout? It's like, is it just constant thoughts? What does it mean to be on burnout?
Well, that is a good question, and I cannot answer that question, to be honest with you, because the burnout is kind of like a fingerprint, like an earlobe. It's unique to you. Some people experience burnout in an extreme extent, like I did. Well, I had already some signs before, and I ignored them, right? But that can be lack of sleep, insomnia, racing mind, lack of food, lack of appetite, shaking, twitching, memory loss, shaking. Yeah, shaking is actually a pretty good one. Yeah, it just depends. Some people have more, some people have less. Also, lack of patience. You get your fuse breaks much faster than it would normally, right? So all of these things are signs of the beginning of a burnout or of a serious burnout, depending on how many of these signs are accumulated and happening at the same time.
And do you believe that burnout is self-induced? So you're the one who causes yourself to burn out as opposed to a job that you're in? Like, is it self-induced?
To the majority, yes.
Yeah.
But there's always outside factors. A burnout can happen because of trauma, PTSD, and bullying at work or at home. So it can happen in all kinds of ways. But it's a big chunk of a burnout is also your own fault because you didn't listen to your body and you didn't take properly care of yourself. Because if you're at work and someone bullies you and you let that happen, you let that affect you, then it's your mistake. However, if you go to HR and you report it and HR doesn't do anything, then it's their mistake, right? Then you have done the right thing. And then you need to go one step further, right? You need to escalate it, to not be scared, to know your worth. Because a burnout is telling you something, that something is wrong, something is not right for you, and you need to change your ways, listening to yourself more. So yeah, I think to answer your question again, I think it is because of outside factors, which you cannot control, but it's also because of your own doing. So monitor both, I guess, and try to work with it as much as possible. With the outside factors, try to mitigate them as much as possible, and if not, get help as soon as you feel that there's something wrong with you, that your body is kind of like manifesting that there is something which is not right.
So how would you say COVID has affected you, or what lessons did it kind of teach you? Because
it's a good question. Well, COVID, I think we all, again, like a fingerprint, experience it in our own ways. And some worse than others, right? Some have lost loved ones and have lost their jobs and everything, are homeless now and on benefits. Like it's a really, really, really horrid time at the moment, and for everyone, right? And my experience is no less crazy for me as your experience for you, right? So I never compare people's experiences as well. And I think that is important to say, that my experience matters as much as other people's experience, no matter what it is, because I feel it the way I feel it, right?
Yes.
So that is also important for people to stand up for, right? Stand up for your own feelings and don't feel embarrassed.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah.
Yeah, because your experiences maybe seems not as dramatic as someone else's, doesn't mean it hasn't been hard for you, right? And so stay straight, be confident with your own experiences. You're not there to there's not a competition of who has the worst experience, right? And who wins. So I think everyone has the right to say, I have a shitty day, I feel bad, I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm devastated, you know. And no matter what it is, I think you all have the right to feel what you're feeling. So for me, it's really days where I was a bit depressed, really, because I couldn't travel anymore, and my job is all traveling at the time. I innovated now as well, but it was really a lot in the plane. I was 3-4 times a week in the plane, and I loved that as well. But then being confined to being home and having less revenue as well because of that, it just kind of brought it home for me, really, that I just calmed down. I got more domesticated. I think that's how my husband says that. He's like, wow, you're so domesticated now. That I'm home more, and I love my kids and I take them everywhere. But now with COVID, and I was homeschooling both my sons, my oldest sons, for a year at home, I felt privileged, because I actually had so much more time with my sons that I didn't even have with my parents. I got to know them all over again.
Wow.
And having 2 kids in teenage age, to have such an opportunity to get to know them again of who they are now properly 24/7 for a year is pretty special. Yes, it's stressful, but I think it's also an incredible blessing. And so that is definitely what I take away from it. It was hard at times, and for my family and for each and every one of us in our own ways. My kids couldn't see their friends, and being with mama all the time is also not great for them, right? Especially when you're almost 16, you're like, wow, this sucks. But we have just grown together so much, and we are such a good team. We have always been, but we just feel so much more connected, even more now, which I think is such a blessing. Right. So I think in the midst of a crisis always comes opportunity, and if you see it, if you want to see it, it's there. And I think this is an opportunity I saw, and I took it, and I'm very grateful for that.
Love it. So who would you say inspires you personally?
Oh, a lot of people inspire me, because I'm such a curious person, right? But I think my husband, to be honest. Also my kids, of course, in their own ways, and how they deal with stuff as well. My baby, how calm he is. He inspires me, because I am not always that calm. I'm half Italian, right? So the Middle Easterns will understand. We have a little bit of fire inside us. Middle Eastern and Mediterraneans and Italians and so on. No, I think my husband, he inspires me because, he has he had and has a lot of bad stuff happening in his life. And just the way he stays open towards life and how he deals with everything, because COVID was also hard for him, and how we have grown together and how much he's there for me and what a good dad he is. He's really a spectacular dad, I must say. To his daughter, he's an amazing dad. And, and it was not easy with her as well, and she's a teenager as well. He has really, I was watching it a lot from the sidelines and, because I'm not her mom, but that was really inspiring how he has just always been there for her, and in with Shuei as well, also with Theodore, and also with me. I'm not the easiest person to deal with, to be honest. I am very ambitious, and I am very demanding, and I'm very perfectionist. And for him to keep up with that and deal with it the way he does, I'm very grateful for that. And that inspires me because I learn a lot from him about improving myself. And he's also how he does business. He's a coach for CEOs and for big companies to scale companies and all of these things. Like, he's really extraordinary and calm and informed and so smart. And I learn a lot from him. So he inspires me, definitely. Again, a lot of people inspire me, but the one that is the closest to me, that I interact the most with, is him. And he's a spectacular human being.
Awesome. So another question regarding to like the person that you would want to be. So who is it, the person, or like who would you want to be remembered as in this world? Like, what is your goal?
I want to be
like to be remembered as.
I want to be remembered as a person, as Tessy who tried, I guess. Tessy who never gave up, and Tessy who always stayed positive no matter what happens. Because I think there's so much negativity in the world. They don't need my negativity. To really always, just, be someone's light at the end of the tunnel, I guess, and be my own light. So just to be known for that I'm reliable, that I was always reliable, always tried my best, and that I was always the positive one in the room. I think that would be a beautiful legacy to have.
Amazing. And what is your thoughts on like spirituality? Because you mentioned meditation, but what are your thoughts on like spirituality or religion or God? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
For me, that is very important. Religion is very important. I'm Roman Catholic. I do go to Mass and I do pray, quite regularly. Now with COVID, I didn't go to Mass all the time, to be honest, not every week, just because it was impossible. And also with a newborn baby now, I don't do that as well. So I pray for myself, and I do my little prayer to my children and to the baby as well every day. Singing songs. I have the Ave Maria, I sing them every night. When I massage their chests with oil, which my oldest ones still love. I also think that the Muslim religion is also beautiful in a lot of ways. I studied that as well. I studied as well Buddhism. I needed to know all of that because of the trauma psychology certification I did. We had a specific section on religion because religion and death are very closely related as well. And there's different rituals. And as such, I needed to learn the different rituals of different religions and how they work and what the main parts are of these different religions. And so, I think I am a pretty spiritual person because I do believe that there must be something else after this, because why are we doing this otherwise? Why are we trying so hard? Yes, to make this world a better place for sure, but how depressing would it be to just say, okay, we're here and then there's nothing? I think, if you can think and feel that there's something nice after you go, and that you can still see your loved ones from wherever you are, or someone is still watching over you, I think it's just a beautiful thing to feel, right? And I rather feel that than nothing at all. So yeah, for me, I think spirituality is a nice moral vacuum to ground you when crises, like multiple ones, happen around you. And that can be, family drama, that can be work drama, that can be pandemics, all kinds of things. I think spirituality in all its ways, everyone has their own way of spirituality.
Yeah.
I think it just gives you that grounding that you need, which I think is beautiful, at least for me.
Yeah. Do you think that you're kind of driven by wanting to do like goodness and more positivity in this world because of this, because of faith and belief that it's all going to lead to a better future or after death? Is this something that kind of guides you, or that's the first question.
No, I don't think so. I don't do good because religion tells me to.
Okay.
I do good because that's how I'm raised as well. That's what I feel inside me. That is part of my identity, that I want to do good because it makes me feel good. I think that is important to say. Of course, religions say, respect your neighbor, respect your wife, and don't do harm, and all of these things, which are also important, right? Kind of like the rules of how you should treat one another, right?
Yeah.
But I think doing good, it's just something you need to feel inside you. And maybe rules get you started for the people who cannot feel it yet. But it's definitely that will grow inside you once you start doing it. It just is. It is like one of the most amazing desserts you love. Once you have that taste, you want to have it all over again, all the time, right? It's just, it makes you feel good. And I think doing good is exactly that feeling of that amazing dessert for me.
Yeah, because when you're saying that, I'm like, you could say it differently. What if like heaven is literally on earth like now, and every given moment that you're in, and that's the feeling that you're kind of talking about. So I have like a few more questions, but the one question came in mind was, what was like a belief or something that you believed for such a long period of time that for it to be the truth, and then something happened that kind of like challenged you to that truth, and you figured out and did more research that it's actually not the way I perceived it to be, and you had to kind of reframe your life and to make it more in a way that serves you as opposed to it being not serving you at that moment?
The first thing that comes to my mind is divorce. When I was married with my first husband, and we were married for 12 years, I always, when I heard that someone would get divorced and everything, it left a bad taste in my mouth. I was a bit judgmental, to be honest with you. Not because someone taught me that, but it's just, I don't know. It was just a judgmental thing I had. And then when I got divorced myself, when I went through divorce, I really learned what it really feels like to get divorced. And that changed my whole opinion about the whole process, because I really realized, the pain, the hurt, the loss, the grief, all of these things, and the stress that comes with it, right? And that really changed my perspective. I would never, ever, and I really try, firstly and foremost, I try not to judge people, but I'm not a superhuman, as I said at the beginning. And as such, it also happens to me that sometimes I do judge people as well. If I want it or not, it just happens. It's humanly. But I try to avoid it if I can, and learn lessons to get rid of that, of judging, right? And I think this one was a really big one, where I really learned that what I thought was true, that, once you're married for life, that is really what I thought was true. And that was my aspiration as well. And it's also my aspiration with my new husband, of course, right?
Yeah.
But I learned that even though I felt it was true, that it doesn't make it untrue to get divorced, but it just yeah, it just elaborated the topic and made me more understanding for the whole matrimonial of being married, the blessing of it, but also the understanding and the empathetic skills I gained by getting divorced, and how that felt.
Yeah. So what does marriage mean to you now after like your first divorce? Like when you decided to, to go on to get married, like what kind of was in your mind that, if I were to do this again, those are the things that I want to kind of make sure that I have in my relationship because I've learned from my first, let's say.
My opinion about marriage hasn't changed at all.
Okay.
I think marriage is the most wonderful thing in the world. I love being married to my ex-husband.
Yeah.
And I married him. We loved each other so much.
Yeah.
And now with my new husband, it's the same. I love being married to him. Yeah. And getting divorced, I never thought, oh, I'm never going to marry again. Yeah. I always said in my mind, I will remarry. Yeah. And when I met my husband, already from the beginning onwards, we had that discussion, and I said to him, I am planning on getting married again. Yeah. I don't know if it's you, of course, it was still early, right? Yeah. But I said to him, I'm definitely reconsidering getting married at some point in my life, because I just like being married to that one person, to that one, having that one person in your life where he is for me, right? We are attached. Yeah. And not just because we're attached, of course, some people who don't want to get married, they feel attached already just like that. And that's okay too. I don't tell anyone, oh, you need to get married. No, not at all. I know a lot of people who are not married, and that's fine too, and it is as beautiful as being married. But just for me personally, I just like to know that I'm married. For some reasons, it makes something in my brain, the way I approach my husband as well. Yeah. And I think it's the same for him. And that is, for us, it was important to get married again. Because, and he always says, what does he say? He has one sentence that he always says to his friends to laugh about, because my husband is almost 50, so he's much older than I am. But he always says, his friends are always like, wow, you're so brave getting married again, right? We are like kind of the brave couple. Because even having another kid, they're like, what? You have all teenage kids. Why are you doing that? So he says, marriage is the ultimate win of experience versus hope. Something like that. Yeah. So that hope always wins over experience. Something, I need to ask him for the exact wording. Yeah. But it makes sense, because it's true, right? Why would you do again or attempt again when you got burned so much, right? Because his divorce was also, oh my gosh. Yeah. And, and it's just, why would we do that? And I love it. Still now, we're only married for a few months, but every morning I wake up and I look at him and I say, hi, husband. It's sweet. I love it. Yeah. So going back to that, I love being married to my ex-husband, and I love being married to my husband now. And I think it's everyone's own piece of cake if they want to get married or not, if they want to remarry or not. But for us, there has never been a question for me not to ever get married again. And what I have learned maybe to just communicate more, I guess, with my ex-husband. He was so busy, and, we had 2 very young kids, and we were very young ourselves. We were still trying to prove ourselves as well. He to his parents, me to his parents, he to my parents, I to my parents, We were so insecure with our own person, our own self, that we just were working like crazy, because we wanted to prove that yes, we can get married young, yes, we can have kids young. And also the press and strangers all over the world said, oh, this is never going to last. Imagine the pressure that put on us. As such, we drifted apart over time, because we just stopped talking about the things that matter to us as a couple. And I think that is what I learned to do differently, to just be more present, even though, everything I've done in my marriage with my ex-husband, I always did it with my full heart, and I really did it for us, right? I worked so much for us. And yet, was that something that broke the marriage because I worked so much?
Yeah.
Maybe some component of it. And just to be more present of it, to, yes, still do my best and grow with my husband, as I did with my ex-husband. We grew together and it was fantastic. But just enjoy it a bit more. Like with what you said before, when do we know when to take a break, right? And just be present. And I think that I learned to just settle a bit. Maybe that's the age as well. I'm much older now than I was when I got married the first time. But that is definitely a learning that I had. And we are completely doing that we talk a lot.
I love
Also
it.
because of COVID, we are stuck in a house together where I think he has no choice than talk to me.
Amazing. And the final question, what is your definition of success?
My definition of success is that, there's so many definitions you can say, but one that comes, I take the first one that came to my mind. I think that's the easiest then. If I would see my work on a magazine cover, would I be proud for my children to see that? I think that is my definition of success. Because whatever I'm doing for them. And it needs to be that legacy which shares my values and my morals that I have with my children. And once this is all met, I feel successful because it works, because it aligns with who I am and what I'm preaching to my family and my children. And it does good in the world, which is a big part of my DNA. So all of that, I guess, is my definition of success. To get that feedback that from my children, which they often give me, my oldest specifically, my youngest as well, but my oldest, he always says to me, Mama, I'm proud of you. And he says, Mama, I know that you're working so hard for us. And he always has said that since he was very small. And that each time just melts my heart because it is so kind of him, right? He doesn't need to tell me that. I would do everything for him. But it's just, he just tells it to me because he feels it. And I think that is the most amazing feeling of success someone can give you. If your own child tells you, Mama, you're doing something right. So there you go.
Yeah, it just melted my heart hearing that, honestly. It's just amazing.
Well, but it's true, I tell you, they are both so incredible. They're really amazing guys. I'm very proud of them. If they're listening to this, which they will, they always listen to my podcast. Mama loves you very much.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Tessy, for your time. And for everyone who wants to reach out, where should they find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Tessy_from_Luxembourg. There as well, I read the direct messages myself. You can go also on my website, tessydenassau.com. There's also a contact me form. And also for people who want to work with me, companies, institutions, businesses in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. I love coming back. So please hire me there on projects. Would love to come and help. Specifically when it comes to education, women empowerment and women in the armed forces. Just contact me over either my website or Instagram. A lot of my clients have contacted me over Instagram. Awesome. So that's an amazing channel. There you go.
Thank you so much, Tessy, and thank you so much for everyone listening.